Welcome, Natalie. Thank you for having a chat with me today.
Thanks for having me, Tammy. This is exciting.
It sure is. I'm enjoying these interviews slash just having a chat so much.
So good, so necessary.
It totally is. So Natalie will be a stall holder on the very first event for the Women's Empowerment event and festivals this year and next. And this is on the 16th of June. We're all talking about the health and wellbeing journey. We will be at Southport Community Centre. So I just would like to introduce you to our audience, because for them to get a taste of what you're all about, will really make their decision of, do they need to know more about you? Are they fascinated by your story? Do you really resonate? And is it something that they want to really understand what you're about and how you can support them? So this is why we're having a little chat today.
Beautiful, nice. Let's dive in.
Perfect. So I always like to ask, what drew you into WEFest?
Okay, so when it popped up on my radar, Tammy, and I was reading about what the essence of WEFest was about, like that was magnetizing. Anything to do with women's empowerment and the fact that we can take agency over our lives. It just brings me, goosebumps really just talking about that type of thing, because I feel, I think, as women, as people of service who are doing this and that for everyone else, we can feel very depleted, and that's where the trap occurs, the trap of us giving our power away. And so when I was just magnetized to what WEFest is about, and your vision to what you wanted to bring together as a community, it was a no-brainer. It was a total synergy with my beliefs, with my values, with all of that. And just I really feel that my message aligns so much so with the vision of WEFest, and it just made too much sense. And when things make sense, you can't pass these things up.
Perfect. I love it. And everyone's energy is so potent. When we talk about the community, the vision, what we all feel, it's just really collectively bringing us all together. We've all had these ideas. We've all had these thoughts. We've all had the yearnings for connection, community. We all work with women's empowerment. It's now just a way for us all to actually do it together. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, just as maybe a little side note to what we've just talked about, I think, maybe empowerment, that word, women's empowerment, it's such a thrown around phrase. And to be honest, I did have my kind of skepticism filter on it, with the lens of, oh my goodness, is this another one of those? If that makes sense.
Oh, good point.
And like I have a life mantra, which goes to the tune of, don't judge it until you try it. And what that really means is, go meet Tammy, go meet the other women, go meet the other stall holders, the facilitators, do the whole, feel the real life interaction. And if you get your spine tingling, then that's a tick. And so that was the tick for me. So yeah, I think we can get seduced into women's empowerment and just bandwagon that concept. But unless there's a real true connection, it almost feels like a very empty promise, if you know what I mean. Women's empowerment, would that type of thing, that can seem sometimes, you walk away with a void of not necessarily feeling connected, not necessarily coming for what, getting what you came in for, basically. And so that was just a little side note that I thought was important to share, because I truly felt yourself as this visionary and this leader that I feel on another level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that so much. And a perfect point. Every single one of these chats and interviews is bringing up another point and another aspect, what WeFest is all about. We talked about women's empowerment as it's a buzzword. It is right, empowerment to even actually try and find WEFest as a domain name. You know, when I went searching for names to see what sat right, empowerment is a word that it almost was too much, too used. It means so many things. It has so many connotations for other people. To me, it was, how do I bring it back to its raw authenticity of what we're trying to describe it as? And WeFest, to me, it's about we. It's about coming together. It just so happens that we also stands for women's empowerment. We're not man-hating. We're not burning bras. We're not... We're not doing things that some people might. I haven't really come across too many people that have had any negative connotations. The minute they have a chat or get to know what it's really about, like you said, you can really tap into the trueness and the truth. And it's just coming back to what we feel we need at this time for us to heal our wounds from, let's say, thousands of years. And that's not going against anyone. That's just something that we're doing in our own journey for ourselves. And as women, we can do that so much more with more enjoyment, more fulfillment, and we can obviously do it a lot greater when we do it together. So we have these aspects as women that to me is women's empowerment. It's actually just getting together and having a chat. We have the societal acceptance that we can be emotional, we can talk to one another, we have our coffee dates, we do the things that we need to do for us. We're lucky in the sense that men don't have that kind of emotional support as from society, that they can actually really pour out their emotions when they need to. So for us, we know we can, we know we need it, we know for us to get through all of our mindset, our beliefs, our fears, we need one another. So to me, that's really what women's empowerment is. It's just getting together. It's just community. For me personally, I really thank you for bringing this up. I just need to share this extra bit is, to me, for us women to do the work in this generation, in this day and age, it causes the ripple effect to allow men to do their work. To me, why I focus on women is because I feel like we have to, what I say, clean ourselves up. We have to heal our wounds. We have to go on our journey. And however we decide to do that is completely fine. For us to create a ripple effect, to me, is conscious and unconscious for the men. They don't have to consciously go out there and do the work, because we have the power to create that ripple effect that our partners, our children, the men that we work with or come into contact with, they're enlightened, they're awake, they're connected to themselves when we hold space for them. We can't hold space for them when we are wounded and upset and triggered by everything that they do and say. Would you agree?
You know, my heart's just racing because what you're saying is just sitting so swell, and I may get emotional because what you're saying, like, it's just singing my music. I feel so much truth in what you just shared, and it's bang on. It's bang on. How can we be a leader in our home and just start to make those changes, you know, and we sit back and we go, wow, I really want to change the world. And that's such a big goal that becomes so unachievable. And so the way that we do change the world is we change it within us, which then goes to those around us, our spouse, our children. So within us, within our home, within our community, and then to mankind. And that's how we change the world. And I feel so deeply this we sensation. This is, you know, I've delved into just the marriage space, and that's where I'm just so committed with making things work in that department. And entering into that space, it's always about me. You make me feel like this. You know, it's this me piece, right? And then what happens when we transverse me? It's a reflection of the literal, the M becomes a W, and we flip it and we go we. So how does when that flip occurs, that's when the magic happens. And I think it's relevant within our marriage, within partnership with women, connecting, and, you know, us as emotional beings wired very differently to men. We need that connection. We need that connection. Yeah.
And this is perfect, because what's your business name?
My business name is Spine Tingling Marriage, even after kids.
Perfect, perfect. So this is a great lead in. So what does that mean for you? How did that business come about?
Well, like with any passion project, it starts from a point of suffering, and you kind of enter this space of marriage in a Disney bubble, and then the dynamic changes when 2 become 3. That's pretty obvious, but the real shock of what occurred personally for me was just the evaporation of emotional intimacy, and that put me, in fetal position discomfort, because I just wondered, my God, where the hell did that guy go? That guy that put me up here on a pedestal and life was so great, dink lifestyle, double income, no kids. We were just living life. It was so swell. And you get so caught up in this romantic subset and just get so shell shocked when you transition over to a new dynamic. And I think there was a complete lack of expectation setting or allowance from my end, which just caused such deep loneliness, frustration, all of those feelings that occur when you start to feel so drifted away from your other half, because life changes. But I just didn't know how to internalize and process those changes. And then as I'd just kind of just, when you just are breastfeeding at 3 a.m. in the morning and you just do your Googling, because what else can you be doing at that hour? This is when, I became so invested in deciding to make marriage work, because I know that I didn't want to be that person in that marriage 25 years down the track going, oh yeah, high five, what do you want for dinner? Like, it was such a boring thought. And I just immersed myself in research and listening to podcasts and attending seminars and just, becoming the student of marriage mastery and just lapping it all up. And then as I was kind of going on my own personal journey for that, because it was for me, Tammy, it was for me. I wanted this better than average marriage. Like, just, I couldn't handle the status quo. It was destroying me. And so, I'd have conversations with girlfriends, and one in particular. So it's almost like that case where the more you talk about your pain, suffering, frustrations, the more you realize how universal those pain and frustrations are. And so at that point, I'd already, read this incredible book, 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, changed my life. If you haven't, please do yourself a favor, get onto it. And so I'd already done some work around making changes within my marriage, and I saw with my own 2 eyes just implementing the teachings of these scholars who have studied marriage. So it's a science, right? So with anything science, there's methodology, there are ways, techniques, and there's actual tangible practicality to implement. So you can try these things. And so what do you have to lose at that point? And so, of course, I'd done a little bit of experimentation, and I saw the shift in our marriage. I saw the shift. And, this really goes back to what we were talking about before, as in how do we kind of bring consciousness to our husbands? Well, we start with ourselves. And so, having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I'd learned at that point in time, and we were just backing and forthing, and I'd shared some of the stuff that really had really shifted in my marriage. I'm like, well, have you thought about this, and have you tried this, and maybe uncovered this? And so when, your bub's a little, you'd have play dates every fortnight, while they play, you talk, have a coffee. And she said to me, she goes, you know what, Nat, you know, us talking and you sharing what has worked for you, I've been doing what you've been asking me to do, and that's been more helpful to me than the marriage counselling that we've been having.
Oh.
And to me, those words just embedded into my heart. And that was one friend. And at that point, you kind of go, oh, okay, maybe some other people need some help too. And it was from that conversation that I really did become so passionate about sharing how we can make changes in our marriage. You know, there's absolutely a place for formal marriage counselling and seeing therapists, and, you know, depending on the degree of the trauma and the difficulties in the marriage. But sometimes maybe just having a chat to someone who's just been there, done that, has found practical ways and energetically can make shifts, maybe that's a possibility too. And I know it to be true because from that one conversation that then transitioned into, oh, am I glaring? Oh my gosh, Tammy, there's like,
Okay.
I don't have any tissues. So that's pretty much how and why I just have such a strong passion for helping married mothers fall back in love with their husbands, because superficially, on the outset, when we are having challenges, it's always his fault. Well, if he was more helpful here, then I'd be happier. Well, if he wasn't such a prick, excuse the French, but that's how our dialogue talks. Well, it was him, he's not doing this, and he's da, 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 da. And it's kind of like this whole finger pointing scenario. And we forget when we finger point, there's 3 fingers pointing back at us. And so superficially, it's like, okay, how can I get my marriage to change? But, you know, the deeper level stuff is our own work, is our own healing, is our own just folding in and really assessing what our needs, desires, and passions are. And then when we lose our connection to self, that's when things fall apart, and it you know, I suppose symptomatically shows up in your marriage because it's the easiest thing to pinpoint it to. But if you explore deeper, it is evident that after children, you absolutely lose yourself. And so I feel that my job is to help us just find our way back to ourselves. And really the first steps around that is, you know, how can we make better communication in our marriage? And then it feels like once we've kind of band-aided the surface, then we can go deeper. And that's when things really start to get exciting. And the bonus there is like, well, things are going cruisy in the marriage. So it's like a tick, tick, tick exercise.
Amazing, amazing. You're going to connect with a lot of women, and I feel like I've said this to every woman I've interviewed, because your story opens up a connection to hundreds and thousands of women. And there are particular points that really hit home with women on where they're at. And you've shared your story, and that's your story, but you've now connected with women that are helping their friends. Now they know that they can make it a business. You're connecting with women that are exactly where you were at in the marriage, and there are thousands and thousands of them. You know, there's all those intricate pieces that were just an evolution for you. It's just how it evolved. It was natural. You did what you had to do at the time. And this is where life experience is our business. This is why, look at your emotion. this is what women are doing in their business. This is why we're doing what we do. This is what heart-centered business is about. We're not sitting there at 3 a.m. going, how can I make money? You're sitting at 3 a.m. how to help yourself. You know, that's the difference. That's
Bang
what,
on. Bang on.
yeah, you know, that's the difference between the old school business form, let's just say that, the old paradigm, the way that we used to act or react based on the fear. And look at how it's men and women, but look at how women are making changes for themselves, for their family, for their marriage. We're go-getters. We are used to juggling a million things. We feel quite comfortable when we are juggling quite a lot of things. It really does ignite some worthiness within us. And sometimes that can be a detriment, but sometimes we can be a mother, be a partner, create a business, and do everything in a complete, fulfilling way. And this is where we're getting to. When you feel that this transition in this whole life that we're going through right now is finding ourselves, connecting back in with ourselves, watching how that ripple effect actually runs out to our whole community.
So true. 100%, Tammy. 100%.
And that is the true power of being a woman and a human in this day and age. This is what following your heart, following your desires, knowing that you need to do some work on yourself, heal your own wounds. I do want to touch on one more thing that I have become very apparent to me December last year, a core wound, a deep, deep, deep seated fear that every single woman I feel runs with, the program that is instilled in all of us that we're brought into this world. And it's the fear of not being safe and secure. Can you share, have you got any stories about having any awareness around a moment where you felt unsafe or insecure, and whether it's something that you realized you had without being at the hands of a situation? It might have just been an awareness that there is this deep-rooted fear that we want to feel safe, and sometimes we desire our man, our partner, to make us feel safe. So the minute they do something that goes against that feeling and we feel insecure, instantly triggers our fear, instantly triggers our nagginess, our bitchiness, our psycho, our everything. Is this something that really relates to you? We haven't talked about this before, but as the fear of not being safe is huge.
That's basically human existence. At the core, that's exactly what we want to feel. And I think to answer your question, do I have an example? I'll share a story that really plays out this fear. So in the early days, baby's crying, you know, baby on boob, and you're just no sleep, really, really in the thick of it. And, you know, at the same time, I'm really conscious that my husband's working, you know, really, really silly hours to make ends meet, put the roof over our head, that type of thing. And so intentionally, we're both doing the best we can do, knowing what we need to do as a family. And so me also not wanting to lose that piece of me before motherhood. So I still thought, how can I still be of value? Thinking the value piece was my ability to earn. And so, you know, I have a marketing background. And so I freelanced while I was breastfeeding, which turned out to be a complete disaster because, you know, while you're trying to finish off a contract with a client and the baby's crying, and it just was so such a torn scenario. And so in my mind, I could see how stressed my husband was, and I thought, how can I help him feel less stress, and how can I feel more secure in being of value, in, you know, just continuing to do some work while I was feeding. And so just to give you that preface, basically, but what had the real life of that, how that played out, was he pulled up in his work truck. It was late at night. I could hear it pulling up. I had to finish off a few bits and pieces, and the baby had been, you know, when you're just KO'd and time out and you're done for the day with babying and putting to sleep and feeding, and if she's crying, she's crying. I'm okay with that because I was maxed out for the day. And then I heard his truck pull up, and knowing that he's about to walk in the door. So you can imagine what he sees when he walks in the door. Baby's crying, I'm on my laptop. So in his mind, he's thinking, what? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. How dare you leave the baby to cry unattended? All of those thoughts. In his mind, he's like, I'm the provider. I will provide security for us. In my mind, I'm like, I can see that you're stressed. How can I still feel relevant as a woman, as, you know, Nathalie before babies, and just still trying to work out that piece, right? Just, and so that was when it was such a vivid moment for us where it just fell to pieces, Tammy. It fell to pieces because he thought that I was completely detached from being this mother. And then in his eyes, I then felt so not enough, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. This is a bit of a long-winded way to answer your question. But yeah, I felt like if I wasn't doing something, I don't know what that something was. Because for me, feeding and nurturing and being with this baby, it wasn't enough for me. I didn't feel that was me doing enough. Mm. And so the security for me was, in order for me to feel loved, adored, respected, all of those things of what he saw initially in me as this, really competent, able, independent, you know what I mean? So the attributes that he put me on a pedestal on, I almost feel like a part of that was just falling apart. Is this the reason why we're falling apart? Because I'm losing all of those. So significantly feeling not secure in myself, and just finding affirming ways in other ways. And that was probably our juncture point where the work started for me.
Amazing. Oh, and again, that is going to relate to so many women in so many different ways. You know, those examples and those situations are so pivotal for us in our lives, but there are women on all different stages of that. To share that story, thank you. I really appreciate your openness as well. I feel another point that will really hit home for women watching is exactly trying to do more. You know, we are good at juggling a lot of things, but at what point don't we feel enough to be only just being a mother or just being a partner or just having a job? At what point do we need to be all of them? So not only have we touched on how fulfilling it is when we've got it all going smoothly, but look, when all the balls fall to the ground, how it can turn to the absolute shit. So that's pivotal, because the women watching, they'll either be at a place where they're trying to have all the balls in the air and they're juggling and they're doing all the things and they feel like they're killing it, or most of us, the balls are falling left, right, and center, and we can't even bend down and pick them up because we're still so deeply ingrained in our own wounds that everyone's triggering us. Our partner, our children, everyone around us will completely trigger us. But yet here's us now also trying to start a business. Like, I guess that's the other point of, if you're trying to start a business and you're doing whatever business calls for you, I was going to make an example, but I won't. If that feels like what you have to do to be worthy, what you have to do to bring in an income because you can see your partner's stressed, that is what a lot of women are going through. That's what a lot of mothers are going through at whatever age their children are. And if you can see that you're causing even more stress, it's a great time just to stop, reflect, come to the event, have a chat to you, because you've clearly been through all of these cycles, that it's important to know where we're at, and it's important to know that we don't need to add another ball to our juggling act. Let's just be okay with where we're at now, find our values, come back to ourselves and what that really feels like, find our own safety security, because it's not up to our partner to make us feel safe. Because the minute they do anything that goes against our values, they don't even know what they've done. They've not done anything wrong in their minds, but it triggers those deep-seated, those wounds that causes us to react in ways that we feel irrational and over-emotional, and we can't control it either. So there's so much that you've just delivered, so much gold. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, it's my total pleasure. I feel like we could just chat for hours, Terry.
You definitely could. I love this part. So for women to want to get to know you more, this is why we're doing this interview. They can reach out. We'll make sure you have all of your connections, Facebook, website. If there's any other links that people can have a chat to you, because you're going to resonate with a lot of women on a lot of the different parts of their journey. You're happy for them to reach out to you online?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Will we just be putting links, or do you want me to mention them now? I'll
put the links.
That's awesome. Easy. Come and say hello. Come and have a chat. There's nothing more that I love in the world than, you know, a chat, connecting with women, and just, even if it's just recommending a book, a podcast, and just at least steering you in the right direction. And then we can discuss if you think I'm the right person to work with further. Awesome. We can chat about that too.
Perfect. And I can tell because your whole face just lit up then. You can really tell when we're passionate, because look at the emotions that come out. Look at our facial expressions, our energy. Like that's what business is about. That's what women connecting, humans connecting. This is what community is all about. You feel a person, you know, when we're really passionate about anything, we allow that to come out. Yeah. That's how we can find our people and find our tribe and start to support one another in so many different ways. So I really look forward to, you do have a few offerings and services on the day. We'll allow the women to come and either connect with you beforehand or come and meet you on the day on the 16th of June. We're doing more interactive services so people can get a feel of what you're all about as well. And then whatever goes from there, you do allow yourself to be intuitive, like you said. If there is a book that I know will really suit someone, I'll make that recommendation. On the day, we're here to really hold space, be of service, whether it's just chatting, whether we're just at our stall, having those deep conversations with women. That's healing. That's transformative. That's really what we're here to do. Would you agree?
Oh my gosh, 100%, Tammy. You know, you just take, you know, even just the chat that we've been having now, and if someone's taken one idea, just one idea, wow. And then just even on the day, on the 16th, when there's so many other facilitators and stall holders that just, you know, make the whole gamut work together, and you go one idea, and you walk away with 5 new ideas. Can you imagine the you know, compound effect of change? Like,
exactly.
No brainer.
And true power, when we can see the ripple effect that we have, that's when we can think, oh, of course I'm worthy. Oh, I am of value. Oh, I have lived through stuff and can help people. We need to know that within ourselves, not only as almost confirmation as we keep transitioning and growing and evolving, that we actually start to really connect in. And that's when we go deeper and deeper to think, oh my goodness, I have just helped all these women just by sharing my story. Sometimes that's everything for our audience, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, 100%.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me, having a chat, connecting, being open and honest, sharing your story. I really, really do appreciate and value your offerings this morning.
Oh, I can't wait to delve into more and just, you know, run a few little, I suppose, little mini workshops. Just the format of the day just gives us that time and space to do that. So there's just nothing more that I love more, imparting things. And it's even just conflict management. How do we approach that? Tips on how we can just use better vocabulary to change our communication style. So yeah, just tidbits on how we can turn the mundane into magic.
Tagline.
Yes.
That is amazing. Thank you very much. I look forward to having some fun on the day with you on the 16th of June.
Yes, me too.
And we will see everybody then.
See you then.